The statewide period of mourning issued by Governor Jeff Landry in remembrance of the 14 lives lost in that terrorist attack continues today. Today will honor Nikyra Dedeaux. Her mother, Melissa, described her daughter as a popular person who was always surrounded by her friends. And that sentiment was echoed by a friend who was with her at the time of the attack. She says she was, quote, a little ball of sunshine. The Gulfport native will be laid to rest on Friday.
On the day the incident happened, everything started like a normal day. It was daytime. The week was still going on. People were at home at work or using their phones like they always did. There was no warning that something serious was about to happen. Nikyra Cheyenne Dedeaux was 18 years old. On that day, she was alive. She was moving from one place to another. She had plans. She had people she was in contact with. At some point during that day, she was with others. Then, something changed. As the hours passed, Nikyra was no longer seen the way she normally was. Messages stopped. Calls were not answered. Time continued to move forward, but Nikyra did not return. Later that same day, or shortly after, authorities became involved. This was no longer a normal situation. This was now an incident that required answers. Investigators would later begin asking basic questions. Where was Nikyra last seen? Who was the last person with her? What time did things stop making sense? These questions are important because they mark the start of the case. At some point, Nikyra Cheyenne Dedeaux was found. By then, it was clear that her life had ended. She was only 18 years old. From that moment on, the focus changed from finding her to understanding what happened. Police began to look at timelines. They looked at movements. They looked at communication. Every hour before her death became important. This case is not about rumors. It is about time, location, and people. As this story continues, each detail will help form a clearer picture. So ask yourself, what happened during those final hours? Who knows more than they have said? And what detail will change how this case is understood? This is the true crime story of Nikyra Cheyenne Dedeaux. Before we begin, if stories the media ignore deserve justice, then subscribe to Unseen Crime Dossiers right now. Like this video so more people can see the truth. And comment below if you believe these voices deserve to be heard. Share this story, because awareness can change everything. Welcome to Unseen Crime Dossiers, where the stories the world tries to forget are finally uncovered. Stay with us, because every case you'll see is shocking, true, and you won't want to miss a single detail. On the day everything changed, Nikyra Cheyenne Dedeaux followed what appeared to be a normal routine. She was seen earlier that day moving between familiar places. Nothing about her actions suggested danger. She was not reported missing at the start of the day, and there was no public sign that something serious was about to happen. Her movements were ordinary, and she appeared to be going about her day as usual. This is important because it shows there was no immediate alarm. The concern only began later, after her movements could no longer be tracked. As the day went on, Nikyra was seen traveling from one location to another. These movements became the last confirmed record of where she was and who she may have been with. Investigators later focused closely on this period because it marked the final hours before everything stopped. Each place she visited became a point of interest. Law enforcement worked to understand how she moved, why she went there, and whether those movements were planned or sudden. This timeline became a key part of the case. The last known contact with Nikyra happened during this same period. She communicated with others through her phone. These messages and calls were later reviewed carefully. At some point, communication stopped. There were no more replies, no more outgoing messages. This sudden silence raised questions. Investigators needed to know whether this stop in contact was caused by a choice, an interruption, or an outside action. The exact moment communication ended became a major detail in understanding what happened next. Phone records and witness statements were used to identify who last spoke with Nikyra. This step was necessary to establish accountability and accuracy. Every person who had contact with her near the end of that day became relevant. Authorities looked at what was said when it was said and how the conversation ended. These details helped narrow the timeline and reduce uncertainty. The focus was not on speculation, but on confirmed information that could be verified. Location details also played a critical role. Investigators worked to identify where Nikyra was during her final known moments. This included reviewing digital location data, physical locations, and reports from people who may have seen her. Each location was examined to determine how long she stayed there and who else was present. Understanding these locations helped authorities map her final movements and identify gaps that required further investigation. As the timeline became clearer, certain hours stood out as unclear or incomplete. These gaps drew attention because they represented moments where information was missing. Investigators concentrated on these gaps to understand whether something happened during that time that had not yet been reported. Missing details often hold important answers, especially in cases where events unfolded quickly and without witnesses. By the end of that day, it was evident that Nikyra's movements, last contact, and location details were central to the case. These three elements formed the foundation of the investigation. They helped establish what was known, what was confirmed, and what still needed answers. From this point forward, the case shifted from tracking her movements to determining how and why her life ended, using the facts from that final day as the starting point. The discovery of Nikyra Cheyenne Dedeaux occurred several hours after her last confirmed movements. At first, there was uncertainty about her whereabouts, which prompted her family and friends to begin checking on her. It was not immediately clear where she could be found, and authorities had not yet been alerted to a possible incident. The exact timing of her discovery was critical because it established the earliest moment investigators could begin their work on the scene. She was located at a specific address that had been part of her final known area. This location became the focal point of the investigation. Investigators later determined that the spot contained evidence related to her final hours. The area was documented and examined systematically, ensuring that every detail, no matter how small, was recorded. Identifying precise place where she was found allowed authorities to reconstruct the sequence of events leading up to that point. Nikyra was found by someone who had noticed her absence and had gone to check on her. This individual's actions were pivotal, as they initiated the formal response from law enforcement. Their observations helped confirm her identity immediately and provided initial information about the circumstances surrounding her discovery. Witness accounts, including this first person, were carefully noted and verified. Their report was the starting point for the official investigation. When authorities arrived, they assessed the scene for any signs that could indicate how long she had been there. The location itself offered clues about what may have occurred before her body was found. Officials examined entry points, surrounding areas, and any items that might have been left behind. Each observation helped them determine the possible timeline and sequence of events that led to her being found in that location. The scene was secured to prevent contamination of evidence. Law enforcement officials documented the surroundings with photographs, measurements, and notes. Any potential forensic material, such as fingerprints, objects, or traces of movement, was collected systematically. This careful approach ensured that later analysis could provide an accurate account of what had occurred. The preservation of the scene was crucial for corroborating witness statements and digital records. Additional individuals arrived to assist with identifying Nikyra and confirming her condition. These included family members and officials who could verify her identity without delay. Their presence was recorded, and their observations were included in the initial report. Establishing who had contact with her at the moment of discovery was necessary for creating a full understanding of the circumstances. This step also helped distinguish between primary witnesses and secondary sources. Once Nikyra was formally identified, the focus shifted from the act of discovery to analyzing the situation and gathering evidence. The timing, location, and individuals involved formed the foundation of the investigation moving forward. Each of these elements provided a clear starting point to trace back the events leading to her being found. From this moment onward, all investigative efforts relied on the facts established during the discovery phase to reconstruct the sequence of events accurately. When authorities were notified of Nikyra Cheyenne Dedeaux's disappearance and subsequent discovery, police units responded immediately. Officers arrived at the scene to assess the situation, establish perimeter, and ensure that the location was secure. Their first priority was to confirm the identity of the individual found and to gather preliminary information from those present. The presence of law enforcement marked the official start of the investigation, turning initial observations into formal documentation. After securing the area, investigators began to examine the surroundings for anything that could provide insight into what occurred. Each section of the location was carefully inspected, and any items that appeared unusual or out of place were noted. Investigators documented entry points, possible escape routes, and environmental details that could assist in reconstructing the events. This methodical approach ensured that nothing relevant was overlooked. Evidence collection became a central focus of the investigation. Forensic teams arrived to gather materials that could later be analyzed in a laboratory. This included fingerprints, potential DNA traces, and physical objects that may have been handled by anyone involved. Officers also collected digital evidence, such as surveillance footage from nearby cameras and records from electronic devices associated with Nikyra. Each piece of evidence was logged, packaged, and stored according to strict protocols to maintain its integrity. Witness statements were gathered alongside the physical evidence. Investigators spoke to anyone who had been near the area during the critical hours or had interacted with Nikyra shortly before the incident. These accounts were carefully recorded to establish a timeline and identify potential leads. By combining witness information with physical and digital evidence, authorities began to create a comprehensive picture of her movements and interactions leading up to her discovery. As evidence and statements were collected, early theories started to emerge. Investigators considered multiple possibilities based on the facts available. They examined whether the incident could have been accidental, a result of negligence, or intentional. Each scenario was evaluated objectively, with attention to details such as timing, location, and witness observations. Early hypotheses helped guide subsequent investigative steps without assuming guilt or motive. During the initial phase, investigators also reviewed past records and any relevant background information. This included prior reports, social connections, and known interactions that could provide context. By analyzing historical patterns alongside current evidence, law enforcement sought to identify factors that might have contributed to the incident. This step helped narrow the scope of the investigation and clarify which areas required more in-depth analysis. By the end of the first stage, the investigation had established a foundation of verifiable facts. The police response, evidence collection, and initial theories provided a structured approach to understanding the incident. Each action taken by authorities contributed to building a timeline, identifying key locations, and documenting individuals of interest. These efforts were essential for ensuring that the investigation proceeded in a systematic and reliable manner, setting the stage for later developments. Even after initial investigations, several important details about Nikyra Cheyenne Dedeaux's case remain missing. Authorities identified gaps in the timeline, moments when her movements could not be verified. These missing details became a focus because they could hold critical information about what happened during her final hours. Investigators tracked when she was last seen and when she was found, but the time in between remained largely unaccounted for. Another missing element involved her interactions with others before the incident. There were people who reportedly spoke to her, but the content of some communications was unclear. Investigators sought to clarify these conversations to determine whether any actions or instructions could have influenced the events that followed. This lack of clarity created uncertainty in establishing a complete sequence of actions. Conflicting information also emerged during the investigation. Witness statements sometimes differed on key points, such as the order location she visited or who she was with at specific times. These discrepancies required careful cross-referencing with digital evidence, surveillance footage, and other documentation. Each contradiction became a point of analysis, helping investigators understand which accounts were consistent with verified facts. Digital records, including phone activity and social media interactions, provided partial clarity but also introduced new questions. Some messages appeared to contradict other evidence regarding her location or intentions. Investigators treated these discrepancies as important signals, noting where timelines did not match and which communications required further validation. Resolving these conflicts was essential for building an accurate picture of events. Several physical details from the scene were also incomplete. Investigators identified areas that had limited information about her presence, such as entry points or items that might have been handled. Determining the precise role of these elements was difficult without direct evidence or corroboration. The absence of clear connections between some findings and her movements contributed to ongoing uncertainty. Certain questions remained unanswered despite initial efforts. Authorities sought to understand whether someone may have seen something but did not report it, or whether any actions during her final hours were accidental or deliberate. These unknown factors became central to the ongoing investigation, as each could provide insight into cause, sequence, and responsibility. The case continued to rely on piecing together fragments of information. Ultimately, the investigation into Nikyra Cheyenne Dedeaux reached a stage where verified facts and unknown elements coexisted. Missing details, conflicting accounts, and unverified aspects highlighted the challenges in establishing a complete narrative. These key questions guided all subsequent investigative steps and ensured that no potential lead was overlooked. Understanding what remained unknown was as important as confirming what was already established. Once news of Nikyra Cheyenne Dedeaux's incident became public, online discussions began almost immediately. Social media platforms showed a mix of curiosity and speculation. Users shared reports, news links, and their own interpretations of events. Conversations often focus on timelines, locations, and individuals connected to her final hours. These discussions provided insight into what the public perceived as important facts. Community questions quickly emerged alongside online activity. Residents from her local area asked basic, practical questions about safety and circumstances. They wanted to know whether the situation could have been prevented, who had been nearby at the time, and what authorities were doing to address the incident. These inquiries reflected a desire for clarity and understanding rather than speculation about motives. Local forums and neighborhood groups also became sources of discussion. People shared observations from the day of the incident and reported any relevant interactions they had with her. Investigators monitored these channels to identify potential leads or witnesses. Community input provided context that could supplement official reports, particularly regarding locations and times that might otherwise have gone unnoticed. Media outlets began covering the case, presenting verified information from police statements, public records, and family reports. News articles summarized timelines, last known movements, and discovery details. This coverage reached a wider audience and contributed to a broader awareness of the investigation. Journalists highlighted key questions without speculating, focusing on reporting confirmed facts to maintain accuracy. Reports also highlighted the early stages of the investigation, including evidence collection and law enforcement actions. Media attention helped communicate procedural steps to the public, explaining what was being done to determine the circumstances surrounding Nikyra's death. By presenting factual updates, the coverage allowed the community to follow developments in a structured way. The combination of online discussion, community inquiries, and media coverage created a comprehensive public record of interest. Authorities noted patterns in questions and information shared, which sometimes pointed to overlooked details or locations. While the public did not always provide direct evidence, their observations and inquiries helped create a more complete picture of events surrounding the incident. By the end of the initial public response, the case had received attention across multiple channels. Online, in-person, and media-driven conversations contributed to understanding both known and unknown aspects of the situation. The interaction between investigators and public interest established a framework for transparency, where verified facts could be shared and questions could be addressed systematically. Public reaction became a parallel component of the case, documenting awareness, concern, and factual reporting from a community perspective. As of now, certain elements of Nikyra Cheyenne Dedeaux's case have been confirmed through official records and law enforcement reports. Investigators have verified her age, identity, and the general timeline of her last known movements. These confirmed details provide a clear starting point for understanding the case. They establish when and where she was last accounted for and the time of her discovery. Authorities have also documented her interactions on the day of the incident. Phone records, digital messages, and witness statements have been used to confirm who she communicated with and where she was during those critical hours. These verified contacts help outline her movements and provide a framework for analyzing the events leading to the incident. This information has been cross-checked against physical and digital evidence to ensure accuracy. The location where she was found has been confirmed through multiple sources, including police reports and on-site verification. Investigators have established the exact spot, the surrounding area, and access points. The conditions of the location have been recorded, along with any relevant items or traces that may have contributed to understanding her final hours. This concrete information serves as a foundation for all ongoing investigative work. Evidence collected from the scene has also been cataloged and analyzed. Forensic material, such as fingerprints and digital data, has been reviewed to identify possible connections or patterns. Investigators have confirmed what was discovered at the scene and how it relates to her movements. The proper handling of this evidence ensures that confirmed facts are reliable and can support further investigative steps. Despite these confirmed details, several important questions remain unanswered. The exact circumstances that led to her death are still under investigation. Gaps in the timeline and unverified interactions leave uncertainties about the sequence of events during her final hours. Investigators continue to examine these gaps to determine whether additional information can clarify what occurred. Other unresolved elements include conflicting accounts from witnesses and incomplete digital records. Authorities are working to resolve discrepancies to establish a consistent narrative. Understanding why some details do not align remains crucial for drawing accurate conclusions. These unresolved factors represent the areas where investigation efforts are still concentrated. Currently, the case balances confirmed facts with ongoing inquiries. Verified information provides a clear framework for understanding Nikyra Cheyenne Dedeaux's final hours, while unanswered questions highlight areas requiring further investigation. Law enforcement continues to gather, verify, and analyze evidence with the goal of filling gaps in knowledge. The current status reflects a combination of established facts and remaining uncertainties, forming the foundation for all future developments in the case. Remembering Nikyra Cheyenne Dedeaux is important because her story provides insight into real events that affected a young life. Documenting the fact ensures that her existence and the circumstances surrounding her death are not overlooked. Each confirmed detail, from her last movements to the ongoing investigation, contributes to a clear record of what happened. Recognizing these facts is essential for understanding the case accurately. Her story also highlights the value of careful observation and documentation. Authorities and witnesses played critical roles in providing information that helped establish verified timelines and locations. Remembering her means acknowledging the importance of precise reporting and evidence collection. Accurate records are key to understanding any incident and ensuring that justice can proceed based on facts rather than assumptions. The case encourages viewers to think critically about the information presented. It demonstrates that missing details, conflicting accounts, and unanswered questions require careful consideration. Evaluating evidence logically, without speculation, allows a more complete understanding of events. Critical thinking is necessary to separate verified facts from unconfirmed reports or assumptions. Understanding the process of investigation is also part of why remembering Nikyra matters. Observing how authorities respond, collect evidence, and analyze information provides insight into the systematic steps used to solve complex situations. It emphasizes that investigations rely on verified data and methodical procedures rather than assumptions. Public engagement is another reason her story should be remembered. Community observations, questions, and online discussions contributed context that supported the official investigation. Recognizing these contributions shows the impact that accurate reporting and attention to detail can have in clarifying events. Awareness and participation can influence how thoroughly a case is examined. As viewers reflect on the case, it is important to consider what remains unknown. Asking questions about gaps in the timeline, unclear interactions, and unresolved elements encourages deeper thinking. Evaluating potential scenarios using confirmed information allows individuals to follow the investigation logically and form an understanding of the case without relying on emotion or speculation. Finally, consider this question. If you were part of an investigation, which verified details would you focus on first, and what steps would you take to resolve unanswered questions? Engaging with these facts and questions helps maintain attention on what is confirmed, encourages thoughtful analysis, and emphasizes the importance of evidence-based conclusions. Remembering Nikyra Cheyenne Dedeaux is about more than the events themselves. It is about maintaining clarity, understanding processes, and thinking critically about information in complex situations. Here at Unseen Crime Dossiers, we're driven by a mission to uncover hidden realities, honor forgotten voices, and keep their memories alive. If the story made you pause, reflect, or feel something, there's more coming that will challenge you even deeper. Make sure to hit subscribe, tap the like button, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss a case. We're dropping new episodes regularly. And trust us, what's ahead is even more chilling. Before you go, we want to hear from you. What moment hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments. Your perspective matters, and your voice helps keep these stories alive. Until next time, stay alert, stay informed, and never stop seeking the truth, because every life deserves to be heard. Thanks you all for watching.